Night one of the WWE Draft gave us a few surprises and some baffling moves on Friday, but it does give the rosters a bit of a refresh if they really stay true to a brand split this time. Sorry, that was kind of funny. The pattern has typically been that they do for a little while, and then it just becomes a free-for-all with people going back and forth. There are actually rumors that WWE is considering bringing back brand-exclusive pay-per-views. It comes from a certain Twitter page that may or may not be reliable, so take it with a grain of salt. They've tried this twice before. They did it from 2003 to 2007. They did it again from 2016 to 2018. And back then, they were doing pay-per-views every 2 weeks sometimes, which was total overkill. That is just a terrible idea. And both times, they ended up reverting right back to the old model. The same thing is going to end up happening again if they try this again. I don't like the idea. But if they were to do it, you don't double the number of pay-per-views each month. Instead, each brand gets, let's say, 3 shows apiece spread out over the course of the year that are exclusive to that particular brand. And all the big stadium shows and the Saudi shows, they get shared. Money in the Bank would have to be shared, unless they do the Money in the Bank matches at WrestleMania like they used to. But Money in the Bank is a big show for them now. I don't think they want to do that. One of the baffling things from Friday was the announcement that they made about crowning a new World Heavyweight Champion, which actually is an announcement they made on Monday. But the explanation for how this is going to work is what was baffling. They're creating a new World Heavyweight Championship on Raw. And they explain how they plan to do it, so I may as well address this first. On Raw Monday night, Triple H came out and he introduced a brand new World Heavyweight Championship, a belt that has elements of big gold to it, and that a new champion will be crowned at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia on May 27th, which explains why they dropped King and Queen of the Ring. It also shows how last minute this decision was, not to introduce a new title, but to crown a new champion specifically on that Night of Champions show. They would not have announced King and Queen of the Ring if this was the plan all along. But the idea of a new title goes back to last year, after Roman Reigns unified at WrestleMania, which begs the question, why unify them in the first place if you were so concerned even a year ago about not having a title on the other show? But the plan for this year's WrestleMania, if they got The Rock to wrestle Roman Reigns, was to headline night one of WrestleMania with a triple threat match for the new title with Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. And that was something I remember Dave even putting that in the Observer, I don't know how many months ago this would have even been, at least 6 months ago. When their Rock plans fell through, they went with Cody, which I guess just proves that they never really did intend to take those titles off Roman at WrestleMania. If they tried to get The Rock and Stone Cold at different points to agree to wrestle Roman Reigns, then I guess they were never taking those titles off him now, were they? Triple H put Roman over in this promo on Monday night. He put him over as the GOAT or one of the GOATs, and he mentioned the 1,000 days coming up at the end of May and how smart Roman was to negotiate a deal for himself where he does not have to be on every show, and he only has to defend a few times a year. Or the Brock Lesnar special, as it is called. But he said that while that may be good for Roman Reigns, it is not so good for the fans, it is not so good for WWE. Well, you're the idiots that gave him the deal. So what does that say about you putting both belts on him? He said whichever brand Roman is drafted to, that other brand would get the new World Heavyweight title. Which brings us to the draft. With the first pick, SmackDown chose The Bloodline, minus the Usos, who were not eligible on Friday. And so they were not included as part of the Bloodline, of which they are part, for some reason. Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and Solo Sikoa, they are going to SmackDown. With the second pick, Monday Night Raw drafted the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Now let's stop right there. Had Cody Rhodes beaten Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, none of this would even be necessary. And he would have had plenty of challengers and first-time opponents waiting in the wings. He could have worked with Brock Lesnar first, just like he's doing now. Only it would have been for the championship. He could have defended against Solo Sikoa. against AJ Styles, against Randy Orton when he comes back, against Gunther, LA Knight, Bobby Lashley. I mean, there were plenty of potential opponents to keep Cody busy full-time because Roman does not work full-time. Roman Reigns is not a full-time performer anymore like Cody is. So that wasn't the issue. The issue was that they wanted to get Roman to 1,000 days and beyond. How far beyond? WrestleVotes told Give Me Sport that Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes is very much on the table to headline next year's WrestleMania in Philadelphia. I don't have the appetite for another year of this. And if there's a chance that they think they might be able to get The Rock for next year, Cody will be wrestling on night 1 for the consolation belt. Because they're never going to stop trying to get The Rock back for a match that very clearly at this point ain't ever going to happen. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try. Or that Rock is not going to leave that door cracked open just a little bit. And all he has to do is give them a whiff that he might be interested, and all of a sudden their plans are going to change. But in drafting Cody away from Roman, that means Cody doesn't get his rematch anytime soon. He's left to go after what for him would be the consolation prize. But not just for him. Look at some of the names they drafted to Raw so far. Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Matt Riddle, probably Seth Rollins. All men who tried and failed to take the title from Roman Reigns. That is why I call it a consolation prize. It is a silver medal for those who weren't good enough to win the gold. Nobody can beat Roman Reigns, who needs help, by the way, to win most of his matches. So instead of addressing that in storyline by having the bloodline banned from ringside, which Adam Pearce would have the authority to do, well, we can't do that for some reason. We have no other choice but to create this entirely new championship. That's the difference between what they've done here and other times in the past where they've created a new title. Because I had some people pushing back and saying, well, if Cody won the belts at WrestleMania like you wanted him to, and then the company just went ahead and they split the titles, well, then how would that not be a consolation title, whichever one they take away from him? They didn't have a world beater back then like Roman Reigns. That's the main difference. Even Corey Graves, on WWE's own podcast this week, admitted that until somebody beats Roman, there is always going to be the perception that any other champion is less than. What they announced on Friday is that there is going to be a tournament held involving stars from both Raw and SmackDown, with the finals taking place at Night of Champions on May 27th. If the new title is brand exclusive and this tournament is not starting until after Backlash, it makes no sense why they would include talents from SmackDown. Even if a SmackDown talent didn't win the entire thing, the draft takes effect on May 8th. That means you would have a SmackDown talent working cross-brand, which already renders this draft meaningless. If a SmackDown star were to win the title, I'm sure they would just automatically be transferred to Raw. But the idea that they would even include SmackDown talents in a tournament for a Raw brand belt is ridiculous. I don't think Cody Rhodes is going to win the new title. I wouldn't even include him in the tournament. He needs to make clear on television what he said the other night. They had a show in Belfast because they're on a little European tour right now. And apparently it's a hot ticket, right? I mean, they had 2 sellouts in one day on Friday. They were overseas on Friday. They sold out there, I think with, I don't know what the number was, 7,000 people. And that same night for SmackDown in Corpus Christi, I believe they were totally sold out too. So they got a hot ticket going on right now. They were in Belfast, and Cody told the crowd, this was before the draft started. He said, what happened to me at WrestleMania in Hollywood is an injustice, and I 100% intend on avenging. It doesn't matter what brand I'm on. That's the story they need to tell on television with him. His story is with Roman Reigns. He can't finish the story with Big Gold Jr. He has to finish the story with the WWE Championship. If they really are holding off until WrestleMania 40 for the rematch, then he would have to win the Royal Rumble 2 years in a row, and then he can choose to go after Roman Reigns. I wouldn't do that. What I would do is what I said on Friday night that I would do, is have Cody win Money in the Bank and have him choose the champion that he wants to challenge, that champion being one man, Roman Reigns. Let him call his shot on TV the next night, 1 month in advance. Roman Reigns, I choose you. SummerSlam, Detroit, Ford Field. Seth Rollins is not going to be drafted until tomorrow, but that world title belongs to him. It does not belong to Cody Rhodes. Cody should not even express an interest in going after it. Cody had a match on Monday with Finn Balor. They had the new title on a podium outside the ring. Balor went over to the podium at one point. He was looking at the title. He was staring at it. Cody, I don't believe at one point during that entire match, even looked in the direction of the new belt. That's exactly what they should be doing. And there's one other thing here that nobody is talking about with the introduction of this new championship. Once they crown a new champion in Saudi Arabia, Roman Reigns is no longer the undisputed champion. You cannot be called the undisputed champion if there is another world champion in the same company. If they insist on continuing to call Roman the undisputed champion, that in and of itself makes any new championship inferior. So they should stop calling him the undisputed champion after Night of Champions, because it doesn't make any sense.